what if we rebranded aging and we started looking at midlife not as the beginning of the decline, but as a powerful new beginning, like entering a life that is going to be on our terms, getting to have more focus, more inspiration, more connection, being more intentional, living life more on our terms and our truth instead of taking care of everything and everyone else. What if the second act of a woman's life wasn't the beginning of the end, but was the beginning of her?
On to the next quarter. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of On to the Next Quarter, where I bring to you influential individuals who have impacted my life and I hope can impact yours as well. Today, I would like to introduce you all to Rakel Chafir, a success coach, a best-selling author, a total fashionista, and the CEO and founder of The Second Act. Rakel is a purpose-driven mentor who focuses on teaching women how to get in touch with themselves, how to find their voice, and ultimately how to achieve their dreams. Rakel is continuously breaking the status quo and inspiring women of all ages around the world to reach their highest potential. I recently had the pleasure of connecting with Rakel via Instagram, and every time I talk to you, it honestly feels like home. I feel like I'm talking to an older sister, and I feel so comfortable, which is crazy because we don't even know each other, and this is the first time we're meeting in person. So I just wanted to say that I am super excited and super grateful that you took time out of your 4-day short New York trip to be here with me and be here in the studio, and I'm excited to learn about your story and about your journey.
Oh my God, absolutely, my pleasure. I really believe in supporting women. My whole business, my whole career, my whole life has been about supporting other women. And it's a pleasure to see younger women who have the drive and the focus to do things differently, to put themselves first, to prioritize their lives, because it's so very common in the first act of our life. And I'm going to explain shortly what's the difference between the first act and the second act. But in the first act of our lives, most of us spend our existence trying to belong to someone else. So the choices that we make, the places we go, the people we date, really tend to be about trying to belong to other people and other things. And then it gets to a point that we wake up and it's like, wait, do I belong to me, right? And I think a beautiful thing that I see about you, although I don't know you personally too deeply, but I'm a very good reader of character and energy because that's my business of what I do, is that I really feel like you have tapped into that and you're prioritizing yourself and your career and your vision. And so having the opportunity to support a younger sister doing this, it's my pleasure.
Oh, that means a lot, because sometimes while I'm going through this journey, sometimes you have like those moments of doubt, but I really appreciate
the
that.
doubt doesn't go away.
Yeah.
By the way. You just learn to deal with it differently, but yeah.
So what made you start this journey of wanting to support women, like be a coach for them specifically?
Well, actually in my career, I worked with a lot of men first. And I found it easy to work with men in a way because men are very predictable. And then what I was noticing is that in my life, I was lacking the connection, deeper connection with other women. And in my generation, there was this idea, I think it's changing, that women had to compete against one another. It's almost like it's my spot or your spot. So if you were very high driven or an overachiever like myself and most of my clients, you ended up having a very competitive nature with other women. So let's say you were in a workspace and there's 12 men and 2 women. Those 2 women were very much in competition. And I started to feel like, wait, but it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. There are certain things, a certain level of connection that can exist between women, among women. And when that happens, it's magical. And so I started getting here and there one female client. I'm like, whoa, okay. I'm so happy when I see her succeed. It feels so great. It feels like almost like, I don't know, like I love when my clients are doing better than I am doing. So it was just like pure joy. And then I started getting it into more and more. And then I said, wait, I just want to work with women. I don't even want to work with men because that was just, I don't know, it just felt different. It felt like a coming together. It felt like a sisterhood. It felt more connected and kind of like a different energy about it, right? And so I started with that, and I started working with women and recognizing that every time I had an opportunity to help another woman, I was also helping myself. So I always hear this thing, I don't remember who said it first, but the medicine we give is the medicine we need. And I feel that sometimes many of the things we do, like you're doing this incredible podcast to support other people, but also to support your own journey. And so for me, supporting other women, it's supporting myself.
Wow. I love that. That's so beautiful. Do you think that you were saying if there's like a group of 12 men and then there's 2 women, why do you think that there's that competition? Do you think it's because there's this, they're trying to seek male validation within that, because there's only 2 of you guys and you feel like you have to compete? Is there an external, maybe not male validation, but an external validation which is driving the competition?
Well, absolutely. Women? I think that women are raised to seek external validation. So everything that, if you look at, if you take a young girl, we are told that we need to be a nice girl and a good girl and a graceful girl and a smart girl and a brave girl. And, we have all these expectations. You have to be all these things. And then you're going to end up having to be all these things to, a man and then to your kids. And so there's so much that's put on a woman from a very, very early age. So in an environment where there's 2 women and then there's mostly male driven, there is this idea of like, oh my God, is she better than me? Does she look better than me? Is she smarter than me? Is she more? It's almost like there cannot be enough room for more women. There's only one tiny spot, so I better take it. So that's the mentality behind it, which I feel like fortunately is changing a lot. And I see a lot more support happening, in the female community. But it used to be really, really bad. So I think that's still at a certain level, it still needs to be, we need to just lower down this feeling of comparison, of measuring up. We don't know how to measure ourselves for who we are. We measure ourselves against somebody else, right? So do I look good according to what? To me, or according to what so-and-so looks like or the other person looks like? And there's this constant comparison that I think it's cultural. And again, it's changing, but we still have, I feel, a long way to go.
So you briefly mentioned the first act and the second act, and I have seen you using this phrase a lot in your Instagram and just really talking about it, promoting it. So can you tell me a little bit more about what that is, what it means to you, and why you started this whole movement?
So for me, I think that there's a moment in a woman's life where you wake up and you recognize that all the things you wanted to do, you've done it. Right? Let's say you wanted to have the degree and you got the degree. You wanted the family and you had the family. You wanted the home and you got the home. You wanted to get back to your body after the babies and you get back to your body after the babies. Whatever you wanted. And certain things, you put the check mark on all those goals. But there's always this feeling of like, now what? And now what? Right? There's this void, this missing that is just happening. And then one day you wake up and you realize, am I continuing to live my life following the terms that I decided, that I thought about it when I was younger, or there's more to me? Is my life now declining, right? Am I not going to be with aging, I'm not going to be as attractive, as ambitious, as relevant.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's taught.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, so you're not going to be 30 again. You're not going to be 40 again. So now what? We're just going to keep declining, right? And so for me, it started when maybe like about a year and a half ago, and I supported a lot of women in midlife. And just the word midlife just makes me bleh. You know, like, we just think about the word midlife. What are the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that word, right? Over the hill, like weight gain, wrinkles, no energy. So there's this idea, this branding of aging as this bleh, this boring, like not sexy at all phase of your life. So I've been supporting a lot of women in midlife even before I got to that age. And then I got to that age, I'm 46, and I started doing some blood work and my hormones were off. And the doctor just sent me like this sad face emoji. He said literally, I got a sad face emoji on my phone saying, I got your blood work back. And I'm like, okay, what? Is everything okay? Other sad face emoji. And then, I'm sorry, but I think like you're starting to move into perimenopause and soon you're going to be into menopause, and other sad face emoji. And I'm like, what? In that moment, right, I felt, first of all, it cannot be, because I look good. I cannot move into like, my idea of somebody going into menopause had to be like, it was a whole other image. It cannot happen. I'm feeling really good. I have a lot of energy. I'm in the best shape of my life. What do you mean? This is right. And then why are you sending me sad face emoji? Like, I started having almost like a crisis in that moment, because what I really saw, what I really read is not you are getting into perimenopause, is the best part of your life, the most relevant, sexier, ambitious, desirable part of your life is about to get over. Like, there's an expiration date, and now, girl, you're going to hit it. It's just going to happen. And so I started to like feel very weird about the whole thing. I'm like, oh my God, why am I so hurt about something normal that's going to happen to every single woman who's lucky enough to age? Why? Why there is this concept? Is it just me that feels this way, or is more women than me? And so I started to speaking with my clients and to other women, and I start to recognize there is like a global, international, definitely, both in Europe and in America, understanding of aging. Like, it's seen as something that is somewhat of a decline. Yeah. We're about to get less desirable, less sexy, less, having less energy, less drive, less stamina, less muscle mass, less. And I'm like, screw that. That's not true. There is just something they've been telling us. What if we rebranded aging and we started looking at midlife not as the beginning of the decline, but as a powerful new beginning, like entering a life that is going to be on our terms, getting to have more focus, more inspiration, more connection, being more intentional, living life more on our terms and our truth instead of taking care of everything and everyone else. What if the second act of a woman's life wasn't the beginning of the end, but was the beginning of her? Living life on her term. Not for the husband, not for the family, but for herself. What would happen? Not just to us, but to our families, to our communities, to women at large, if we begin to look at our lives as a constant improvement, a constant opportunity, rather than the beginning of a decline. That's what I started to think, right? So how would that impact the younger generation? Yeah. Right? Because I don't know, how old are you now?
26.
So you're now 26. What if you thought that the most exciting part of your life would begin after 50? How different would you approach your life?
Very differently. Right?
Because you think like, okay, I'm 26. How many years do I have till I'm like still the hottest that I could? Yeah. I mean, like it's going to be in the back of your mind.
Yeah, it is. It already is. And that was one of my questions, because as you're approaching, I'm like, oh my God, you're going to be in my late 20s now in a couple of weeks, And so there's this idea like, oh, once you hit 30, you're starting to get old. Once you hit 40, you're like really starting to get old, and 50. And this conversation, like as I'm approaching, you know, the later half of my 20s, is that women feel like as they grow older, they're not appreciated as much anymore. They're not looked at as much. They don't feel sexy. And there's just this fear of growing older. So shifting that perspective is so beautiful and so amazing, especially now with like all these filters we see that like remove our wrinkles, or like on TikTok, it's like, oh, the aging filter, and people are like freaking out, like, oh, this is what I'm gonna look like, okay, let me start getting Botox right now and this and that. But I love seeing the opposite end where people are like, it is beautiful to age. There's so many pros to it, and that you can start living for yourself. And I really like
but
that.
I really think it's not just about living for yourself. It's almost like it's really a lie. I can tell you for a fact that for myself and my clients, like I have clients who are recently divorced. They're getting more freaking attention now than they ever did in their 20s. And it's because they are, in a way, hotter. Okay. Yeah. In a way, they are hotter because they're more embodied. Yeah. They're more secure. They're more confident. They don't care. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like all those thoughts are like, has he called me? Did he call? Like all that madness that goes on in your younger years. You're so secure in who you are. Yeah. That you have no freaking time to dwell into the doubt of whether somebody is going to like me or not. Like you have a different connection with your worth that it's very powerful and very sexy and very strong. And you really feel like it's a beginning of a new life for you, not a shrinking, rather an expansion of who you are. Yeah. And that to me is not just physically, not just in relationship, but also in career, you know, because there's this idea of when you stop trying to take care of everything and everyone and you can start focusing on yourself, that's when you can really accomplish massive amount of things. Because a woman in her 30s and in her 40s, chances are she's going to start a family. So even if she has her own business, like I always had my own business, I'm an entrepreneur. You are trying to pull it off, like, you know, you're raising your kids and you're trying to pull it off and you're trying to take care of everything and everyone. And then you get to an age and you're like, wait, I don't have to take care of anything or anyone. My kids are old enough. I've taken care of things. Now it's my time. What do I want to do? Yeah. And now, trust me, when you come and do what you want to do from that place of awareness, of security, of confidence, of clarity, you can become unstoppable. If you give up the belief that you are not in an age of less. Because if you hold on to that belief, you're going to still continue to go after it as a cripple, right? Trying to make it work using the same method, the same system that you did when you were 20 years younger, and it's not going to work. There's completely different approach to body, to what we need in terms of how to stay fit, how to stay strong and stay looking good. It's a different need. It's a different nutritional need. It's a different hormonal reality. It's completely different, but it's not worse. It's just different. And in many ways, I can tell you, it's even better.
So you mentioned having to juggle having your own business, being an entrepreneur, having a family and kids. And I feel that a lot of younger women nowadays maybe don't want to settle down or have this fear of settling down and having kids because they think they have to give up their dreams and their aspirations and their goals because that's what they've seen in older generations above us. There was either, you know, parents, usually the mother, would give everything up so that they could raise their children, or there were mothers who did continue pursuing their career, but then those kids felt a little bit neglected. There was no balance. But I see you, and I see that you have two beautiful boys and you have a family, and I see that you choose them, but you also choose yourself. And so how do you create that balance?
I think it's a process for sure. It's not like a one-time thing that you do. I believe in being completely true and authentic to who you are. So I don't think there is a recipe, right? I believe that the moment I choose myself and I honor my desires and my needs and I nurture myself, I show up as the best possible mother for my family. So that's my belief, right? So I would look at my schedule and I will make certain things about me non-negotiable even before. It's not that I put them before my kids, but in a way I am. And I'll explain how. For example, for me, moving my body, it comes before everything. Okay, so I don't care how busy I am. I don't care what's on my schedule. Of course, if my kid is sick, I'm going to go to my kid. But if there's not an immediate emergency, the child is going to have to wait for me to move my body, regulate my nervous system, connect with myself, do my meditation, because that's what's going to prevent me from flipping over my child and go crazy, because I know me. And I need that for myself. Right? So for me, my needs, certain basic needs of having space, of having time, of my pursuit of my desires are non-negotiable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to adjust it. Like, for example, for me, I have 2 heavy client days that are normally Tuesday and Wednesday. I never work on Monday. I never work on Friday. Those are my kids' day. But those 2 days, those are my days. My kids better not walk into the room. Like, I have this big sign that says, don't walk. They don't read. Like, the little one is pretending not to know how to read, but he does, of course. But like, those are my days. And it's a sacred time for me. And that's just the way it is. It's not a negotiable. I don't ask for permission. And I think that's what women should do from the beginning these days, is like, in my generation and the even previous generation, even harder, we got into a situation where you're expected to give up everything as a mom, at least in certain culture, or you neglected the children. I think we can come in with a pretty clear condition. What do I want? What does it feel right by me, right? So for me, having Mondays and Friday completely dedicated to my children, and, and the weekend, at least Sunday to them, feels okay. To another mother may seem awful. Like, they might say, you're horrible. Like, what do you mean? Like, but that's their vision. So I think it's about trying to find your own thing. What do you need? What makes you feel aligned? What do you need to function and to show up as a woman? And then understanding that there's never the perfect situation. Like, you can, in theory, you can stay single your whole life, or you can have kids and still have both exciting careers. It just depends on whether you're going to use your challenges as something to propel you forward, or you're going to let those challenges shrink you. Right? And the problem is, I think, if I look back at the problem that I had when I was younger, is the feeling of, I really desperately wanted to be in control. I only felt safe when I was in control. I only felt safe when I had a plan. And when I place a check mark next to every goal. Done it. That was like my high. Freaking to-do list and cross it over. It's just like the best drug. But it's a little bit of an illusion. Because you are safe in that moment. You're productive. But you are at the mercy of what you're doing. Your definition of self, your self-worth, your opinion of who you are, it's entirely bound to what you do. So in a way, you come after what you're doing. Oh, I've done my master degree. So your connection with who you are, your sense of self, is entirely dependent on things other than you. Which is very first act. In the second act, you come first. So you start with that self-worth. You start with, what do I need? You start with already being good enough. And then because you're good enough, you're going to end up doing the thing. Right? So the very thing that you want, your goal becomes the natural byproduct of who you are. Something that comes to you because of who you are and what you're committed to, not something you need to get in order to feel good enough. And that changes everything. Does it make sense?
It makes so much sense. So how would you start operating from this sense of self-worth? Like, I'm in my first act.
Right.
And I want to, and I know that I show up differently when I'm feeling very worthy and I'm feeling my self-love, but it's hard to do that every time. And I know what you mean about checking something off, because say I'm not being productive for a period of time, and all of a sudden I accomplish all these things, and I'm like, oh, I feel good, like I'm doing something with my life, like, yes, let's go. But how do I show up every day, and how do I build up the strength of operating from self-worth?
Well, I think it starts with radical permission to suck at it. Radical permission to not be good at something, and say like, oh, I'm just learning how to do this. That's how you start. And then you start by prioritizing your connection with your body, your breath. Like I keep going back to the body because I do believe that the body is the gateway to the experience of success. So we start focusing less on the things you do and then more on how would it feel if I've done those things. I'll give you an example. Think about the most successful person in the whole world. I don't know, Beyonce, right? Yeah. Or LeBron James. Everybody, like, how do they feel in that moment? Like, how does Beyonce feel when she's standing on stage, holding a power pose, ready to perform in that moment? What is that experience of success? What is that breath? What is the grounding in her legs? What is that experience, internal experience of being in your element? Yeah. Right? So how do we cultivate that experience? We cultivate that experience by understanding that before anything, worth, success, self-esteem is an experience that starts in our body. It's a feeling. Yeah. It's not something you do. It's something you feel, something you are. Right. And so understanding that is like, how do I cultivate that? How do when do I feel that way? How do I tap into that? How do I breathe more into that? How do I start my day with that? Yeah. And then starting my day with that, by all means, I'm extremely ambitious. I'm wildly driven, and my to-do list is sometimes embarrassing how long it is. But I every time that I see it, I'm like, and I feel like even a overwhelm or an anxiety to go at it or a need to be productive, I stop myself and I say, yes, those things, I'm going to do them, but how am I what is the energy I'm approaching each one of those things? I want you, but I don't want you as a mean to feel good enough. Right. I want you because I'm so freaking worthy that I should do those things. Right? Yeah. And it changes everything. It changes it in business. When you approach a client, you want to get a new client. You meet with the client, and the client can feel if you feel like needy, like, oh, sign up with me. Like right. I see this all the time. There's so many desperate people. I'm like, I know how good I am. Yeah. My heart is open to you if you need my help. Yeah. There's an ease, and the other person feels the ease, and so your business grows. In relationship, I see it with clients of mine that have gone through divorce and now are dating again, and they thought, I'll never date again. I'm going to be single my whole life. My life is over. And now they have more dates that they did 30 years ago. Yeah. And their feeling is they don't really need the date. Yeah. They feel so good with themselves that they don't really give a damn. But they're coming to them because they approach life, they walk through life moved by a deep, deep sense of worth and confidence. So it's natural that what they attract are things that, want to be around them. You want to be around them. I want to be around them.
Yeah. You're attracted to their energy.
Right.
Their aura.
Because they're so embodied in their worth. Yeah. So it's really like start to reverse engineering things. That's how I would do it. Instead of saying, I'm going to do this so then I could feel that, I would reverse engineer that. I feel that, so I will do this. Right? Yeah. Yeah. It's really practicing that approach.
Wow. I love that. I definitely need to implement that into my life. And I recently did a podcast with somebody who is going into acting and has worked with a lot of actors, but he didn't come from that field and he didn't know anyone in the industry. And he was mentioning to me, I was like, do you ever feel imposter syndrome? Like you were in this room filled with like legends. And he was like, no, like for all they know, they don't know who I am. I don't really know who they are. Like I just go on a first name basis. Like, for them, I could be the best producer. Like they don't know. And he was like, if I approach myself with my worth, and he was like, they also started from somewhere, and he was like, when I approach them as a fan, you'll always be treated as a fan. Right. But when you approach them as an equal, you'll actually be treated as an equal. And that really shifted my perspective, because I know starting something off, starting a new business, you want to promote yourself, you want people to come to you, and there becomes this like sense of need. And
yes, that needy energy.
Yes, and I realized that I really had to shift from that and be like, it's okay if people don't see the vision that I have right now, but the right people, the right energy, like our paths will end up crossing.
Oh no,
anyway.
let me tell you something as an older sister. If people are not seeing your vision, it's a good sign. It means that your vision is big. If everybody's seeing your vision, you're thinking small. This I can tell you for a fact. Okay. If you have an idea and everybody's like, what a great idea, it's a tiny idea. Okay. When you have a bold, life-changing idea, trust me, 9 out of 10, the best scenario, 8 out of 10 people are going to be like, that's insane.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and my husband always tell me like, you're so unrealistic. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be realistic. I've built an unrealistic life.
Yeah.
I have a global business. I travel the world. I have clients that I would hang out with even if they weren't my clients. Like literally, I couldn't think of women that excite me more. You know, I have a team of people that, I don't know, just divine. Like the connection that I never even had with my family is in my team. Yeah. And it's all wildly unrealistic. Yeah. Wildly unrealistic. You know, for a girl who grew up in a small town next to Florence. And, you know, it's everything. Everything about, like, even this year, you know, I was applying for one of my person in my team, my speaking coach, was applying for TED Talks. And he's like, I'm going to get you 2 TED Talks. And I said, oh, that's so unrealistic. 2 TED Talks in a year. And he's like, exactly, it's unrealistic. Aren't you unrealistic? Sure enough, we landed 3. I did 2, but we landed 3. Wow. You know, it's like, it's all about what you tell yourself. But if it feels easy, at this age, girl, you should have a vision that will make other people scared. And that should fire you up. Yeah. Like, in the moment that I say, oh my God, that's not going to happen, it should be like gasoline on fire. Like, oh yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. I needed that. That. So I know you're in this whole journey, you've really found yourself. I see how grounded you are and how just in tune you are with yourself. But did you ever in that process feel any sort of guilt, or did anyone ever make you feel guilty for choosing yourself, choosing your career?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. It's still, it's still. Okay, so here's one big misconception that people have. People think that you become this confident woman and your insecurity, doubts, fear, and guilt disappears. Absolutely not. It doesn't go away. Sorry for the bad news. What happened is that, let's say at a point in your life, the guilt, the judgment, the shame, the fear had a volume 10. They were screaming at you. It was like really loud in your head, and it was stopping you, and it was making you sick, and da-da-da. And now the volume has shrunk down. So it still happened, but it's like, oh, that's that voice in my head feeling guilty. So you still experience it, but you've learned to separate yourself from it. Okay, you've learned to deal with that. So the internal conversation of criticism, of judgment, of shame, of that you've been carried on all your life, you have, in a way, accepted it, and you have learned to separate it. It's not me. It's the voice in my head of that. I have judgment all the time. The other day I picked up my kids at school, and one of the mothers said, "You're leaving again." She goes, wait, she said, "You're leaving again." It's interesting how you always find this that's what she said, vacation times, right before like a holiday or something like that. I'm like, vacation time? I have a business. Oh yeah, well, I meant whatever. That's what she said. And I'm like, I have more anxiety going to a school pickup than speaking on stage in front of thousands of people because these moms are like brutal. Yeah. So I get the judgment all the time. It's just what I choose to do with that judgment. For me, in that moment, I'm fired up. I'm like, thank God, Lord, I'm not her. I'm just thank you. Thank you, I'm not her. Thank you, she's not. It just because that could have been me. I could have been that person if I shrank my dreams. If I given up on my life, seeing somebody who hasn't would have made me that upset. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would have been that mean person. Now I can't even be mad at her because I feel sorry for her. Mm-hmm. But the judgment doesn't go away. So the only thing that I would tell my younger self, because I know that a lot of people in your podcast are going to be your age or younger or just a few years older, is to learn that it's not about making things go away. It's not about fixing. It's not about canceling and erasing and waiting for the day that you're going to wake up and you're going to feel perfectly aligned and the stars in the sky is going to be perfect. And your life is going to be so calm that you're going to finally be able to be in the position to go after your dreams. And it's going to be this beautiful fairy tale. No, the time is only now. It's going to be messy. It's going to be hard. You're going to doubt yourself almost every day. Mm-hmm. There's going to be moments in which you're going to be like, what am I doing? Yeah. And yet, you always have an opportunity to choose yourself. But choosing yourself is not something you do once. It's something you do every single day, multiple times a day, when the voice in your head that tells you, it's going to be hard, it's not going to work out, what am I going to do? What am I going to be? What is my life going to be like? And in those moments, like, I hear you. But I trust and I choose myself because I'm worthy of it. And then you do it again. You do it again. And finally it becomes so part of who you are that it's just going to be the natural things to do. And you're not even going to have to take yourself to that thought process. You're just going to naturally do it. Yeah. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. So say I am that mother at the school who is giving that judgment because I feel so stuck in my life, in my job, in my relationship, or this fixed identity that I've created of myself. And I come to you as a client and I want to get unstuck, but I don't even know where to begin. What would be the first steps, or what would you advise somebody to do to help them kind of create a little momentum and get out of that little rut that they've been in for so long?
Well, the first thing I would ask her is, are you moving every day? Are you moving your body every day? Are you waking up and moving your body? And the reason why is because the only way to not be in our head is to be in our bodies. When you're in your body, and if you're moving your body consistently and vigorously, you can't be in your head because your body is challenging you, right? Your heartbeat is higher and you're struggling. And in that moment, the head shuts down. And when the head shuts down, you have an opportunity to actually feel where you are. So the first thing I would tell her is like, move. Yeah. You feel sad, move. You feel heartbroken, move. You feel tired, find a way to move. You feel overwhelmed, move. Whatever you do, move. Because the only way to get unstuck is literally to move. So the first thing, I would take it to the body, and then we could have a conversation. But I think most of the time, there's no movement. Yeah. It's almost certain at this point.
And so once they start some sort of movement, then from there, it's like they can start maybe addressing their own self-worth and getting into...
Right. I mean, addressing self-worth, it's a life process. So I think once they start moving, they start to become aware of how they feel. Because the first step is to become clear on how you're feeling. Right. To recognize and say, okay, this is what I've been doing. This is what has been happening in my life. And if you don't recognize that, there's no work that can take place. Yeah. Right? So first you move, then you become aware about how you feel. And then you seek support because you cannot do it by yourself, right? And so whether it's community, whether it's a friend, whether you can hire a coach, whether you can do whatever, you seek support because you will need guidance. Yeah. And you will need not guidance once, twice. You're going to need a specific journey of somebody really helping you get there, because by ourselves we can't do it.
Yeah.
You know how they say, if you can do your dream alone, you're not dreaming big enough. It's true.
Yeah.
You can't just get there by yourself. And then in the basis of that, I think one learns, what's happening and gain deeper clarity and takes bigger action. But if you don't do those steps of moving and getting out of your head and finding the clarity of where you are, where you want to be, there's no work that happens. And I think the biggest problem is that people want the solution, but you cannot access the solution without clarity. And so really the focus should be gain the clarity.
Yeah.
Gain the clarity, get off your head. Once you're clear on what you want and what you don't want, then we can decide what the journey is. But many times people want the journey and the solution before they even got clear. Yeah. Which is not going to work. We want that magic pill that's going to fix it.
Yeah.
There's not such a thing.
Yeah, because even if they do get the solution, you're not ready. You haven't gone through the journey and the self-work to be able to accept it. And even if you do, kind of like how winning the lottery, like a lot of people win the lottery.
Correct.
But then, and they feel like, okay, like finally I have a lot of money, like I'm going to be set for life. But they lose it as quickly as they got it because they haven't built that energy. They don't have that relationship with money to keep it.
Correct. There's no clarity. There's no presence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what got you in the place of where you are, what got her, that mother in that place, is the lack of presence. Mm-hmm. Is what do I need to do? Okay, I need to be a mom. I need to get the job. She just went for it. Yeah. But how do I feel? What do I want? Mm-hmm. And there's nobody. There's no coach. There's no therapist that can tell you what you want. You have to get that clarity. And to get that clarity, you need to get out your head. Because your head is going to constantly move into this inner dialogue of fear, of shame, of judgment that is just like this broken record that has been recorded in decades. And you can't just shut it down like this. You're going to have to get out of your head and into your breath. Because at the end, if you think about it, before anything, if we take away your name, your social security, your bank account, your makeup, your clothes, what are we? We are breath. We need to go back to that. Yeah. And so the moment of getting back to that breath, of being just that breath, right, in the body, then we can start rebuilding it. But there's need to be that moment, that level of being grounded into that. And it's a process, and it's not easy, but it's not complicated. It just takes willingness.
Yeah. So, me being in my later half of my 20s now, I encounter a lot of females that are my age or a little bit older who have this pressure of maybe being in a relationship, finding the right partner because they feel lonely or because there's societal pressure or there is pressure from parents. My question to you is, if you could go back to your first act, and if you could go back to travel back in time into your 20s, how would you approach dating so that you could find a high valued equal partner?
Wow, what a good question. I just had a vision of my 20s. My dates were just like lame. No, actually, no, one wasn't lame, but yeah, there were some ones. I think, God, I had no clue how worthy I was. To tell you the truth, you're in way better shape. So,
thank you.
You are way better. I grew up with such a critical father that I'd really made my whole first act existent about seeking validation and being an overachiever. So speak about like to-do list and productivity and pleasing everybody and their mama. That was me. So going back, what I would do is like really focus on myself and not at all try to in any way change who I am or how I operate to please anybody. I would really invest in my own connection with myself. But it's easy to say, when you're looking backwards, but in the moment, I just wasn't ready. So what I would say is like, even if it's hard now, it's going to make sense later. So just as long as dating is not the biggest lies of your life, it can be the biggest life of your life. It needs to be about other things. It needs to be and dating and finding partnership, but not the thing. And I think the biggest problem is that sometimes it becomes the thing. It's like, I have to find the guy or the woman or whatever.
Do you think that I've been seeing recently on my feed that people say that the partner you choose is probably the most important decision that you'll make in your life? Do you believe that? And also, second part to that question is, do you think that the partner you choose affects the level of success or achievement that you'll have?
It can, for sure. Because if you choose a partner that is unavailable or a narcissist or abusive, it will prevent you from achieving the success that you are capable of achieving. But at the same time, I do believe that a partner is not the end of it all, So I have my ring finger. I have a love ring. I don't have a wedding band. That's because I'm first married to myself. So that's how I see it. So that's my meaning of a partner. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think a partner is important. I think that it's beautiful to have companionship. But I think that if you don't belong to you, you can't belong to anybody. So that's how I see it. So I am married to my kids. Those are the loves of my life. My boys aren't the man of my life. I'm not saying that I don't love my husband. What I'm saying is that I don't have this fairy tale vision of marriage that many people have. He's an incredible father. So I believe that if somebody wants to have children, should look into a partner that you feel it's going to be an amazing father. And my husband is an incredible father. But in terms of everything else, I think my main relationship is with myself. I don't know if he's going to like that part.
It is
but maybe we won't make him hear it.
It's okay, you're speaking your truth.
It's like, it's the way it is. It's like when people always told me, it's like, are you so certain? I'm like, I can tell, I'm certain about my kids. I can tell you I'm certain.
Okay.
They're the loves of my life. Everything else, I think there's a JLo song that says she's the love of her life. She got married 4 times. Yeah. So now she says it's Ben Affleck. But I mean, she has a song that says I'm the love of my life. And then in a way, I think we all should be the love of our lives. I mean, we all should be our own main purpose.
Yeah.
I want my kids to be successful. I want to help women. But ultimately, I want to be the full expression of myself. I want to live this life, get to my deathbed and say, shit, sorry, I don't know. Can we say shit? Okay, good. Shit, I completely expressed myself. I became the full extent of who I could be, period. That's what I want every woman to do. And that's what I wish I knew in my 20s.
And is that how you would define purpose for you?
Yeah. A full expression of who you are. Absolutely. That then has impact on others. Yeah. But the impact, again, is the byproduct of you living in the full expression of who you are. It's not like, oh my God, I want to have purpose, so I have to change the lives of 1,000 women. No, I want to have purpose. I want to be fully embodied and express myself fully. And if that is in alignment with other women, may I change millions. Yeah. Right? But my worth is not going to be attached to that.
So my last few questions to you are, I love this whole idea of first act, second act, because when I was thinking of this podcast, I think of it in quarters, right? Like your first quarter, your second quarter. And when I was first bringing it up, people are like, quarter? Like, I'm already in my second quarter? Like, what do you mean, 25 years?
Right.
And it's not necessarily about that. I think it's just about, like, the different shifts that you have in each chapter.
Right.
You can divide up a quarter in a year. You can divide it up into, like, however you want. But I know you've touched on it a little bit, but what do you think is the biggest lesson that you have learned in this quarter of your life, or this second act of your life, and what are you looking forward to? Because you're going to be hitting 50 soon, which is amazing because aging is, like you said, a blessing, and you're just getting better and better. So what have you learned now, and what are you looking forward to?
Well, okay, so what I learned is that there are some specific difference between the first and the second act of my life that I've learned, and I shifted. So first act is trying to belong to a place and to other people. Second act is trying to belong to you, right? That's the first one. The second one is in the first act, you tend to look at other people and compare yourself and measure yourself according to what other people have, how they look and what they do. In the second act, you're only measuring yourself with yourself, what you need. You're so focused on you. You don't even have the energy you don't even care what other people do, what other women do, what other men do, what they have. It's like, what do I want? What do I need? Right? And then in the first act of your life, you're trying to fix your body. You're trying to fix things. In the second act, it's all about healing things. It's about feeling good about things. Right? And then in the first act, you are measuring your achievement. So you're going for things in a way that you can feel good enough once you get there. In the second act, you feel good enough and your achievements become the natural byproduct of who you are. Right? So these are like massive differences, like your relationship with others, your other people's need, other people's desires are important in the second act, but they're not as important as they were in the first act. I think in the second act, I've become exceptionally selective with the people I'm hanging out with, what I say yes to. Like, to me, saying no, it has become like such an easy thing. It used to be so hard. Like when people tell me, you want to do this? Even the simple thing, let's go for dinner, let's go for a drink. Okay. I used to be okay before. And then the day will come. I was like, please make them cancel. I have no freaking energy. And then when they canceled, I'm like, yes, thank you, they cancel. Now I'm like, I learned, I never say yes. I say, let me think about it. First, I say, let me think about it. That already saved me a tremendous amount of time, right? Because then you have time to like really ask yourself, do I want to go? And then I see that every time I say no to something I don't want, I say yes to something that I want. So every time, every little thing, from the smallest to the biggest thing, I say a lot more no. And as I say a lot more no, I realize I say a lot more yes. I had to do that with boundaries with family members. You know, I had an incredibly needy brother. I always used to say yes, 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 yes to. And the first time I told him no, he was traumatized. But now it's like he doesn't even ask me things anymore because it's always nope. You know, but I felt like I had to say yes to everything. And when you say yes to everything and everyone, you cannot say yes to yourself. So I'm really looking forward to more of that. More no to the things I want, more yes to what I want. I'm looking for more connection, more profound connection. I have unavailable to low vibe conversation or complaints or anything that is not up, you know, like that doesn't have depth. A lot more sensuality, more self-expressed sexuality, less shame, more confidence, fearlessness, all of that. That's all I'm looking for in the second act. That's all it is about. Like really feeling good for me, expressing what I want, learning my needs. Because again, you know, I was speaking to another client of mine who's, she's kind of like a pleasure coach. I think that's what she would call herself. I don't know because she's defining it. And she said something to me that really it was so true. She said, in the first act of our lives, we have learned as women to define pleasure according to the pleasure we can bring to the man. So if the man feels pleasure, then we feel pleasure. And she's like, wow. Like, you know that emoji with like this? That's what my mind is like, wow. I was like, I never thought about that. And it's just like, and then she asked me, she invited me on a podcast. She's like, how would you define pleasure? I'm like, I didn't have the answer. I'm like, damn, there's another thing I need to work on in my second act. So it's like, this is happening all the time. I'm understanding things and needs that I never even crossed my mind to ask, because I just assume that that's, just been busy doing other things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the second act sounds amazing. I want to be there.
Like, you will be there. Like, it just starts sooner.
Yeah. I'm gonna try.
But you know what I mean? It's like this feeling of dropping layers of bullshit. That's what I feel like. Having a lot of clothes and you're dropping it, and now you're dropping it and you're like, oh my God, I can be more me. I can feel more like me. You care less. It is such a huge, tremendous freedom of not giving a damn if somebody likes you. Oh my God. Like, of understanding somebody doesn't like you. It could be like a girlfriend. It could be somebody at work, and they don't like you, and you're like, wow, I don't give a shit. That's amazing. Oh, wow. I used to be destroyed.
Yeah.
It's like that. That's what I'm looking forward to more of that. More self-expression, more like bold statement and mic drop moments, and and like, that's it.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. I'm so excited for you. I love hearing that. And lastly, if you had one message for all the women in the world based on your life and your experiences, what is one thing that you would want to leave them with?
I have to think about that.
Yeah, take your time.
You don't have to know it all and do it all this moment. All you need is to be willing. All you need is to be willing and open, and it's one step at a time, not 10 steps. Don't worry about step 21. Worry about step 1. What is the first step you can take in this moment to get one step closer towards what you want? Take that step. Don't worry about step 2. Just take that step and trust it. By the time you take step 2, by the time you take step 1, step 2 will be revealed to you. That's what I would say. And move. Whatever you do, move your body.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask a second question on that. To take that first step, I think people feel scared to take that first step in the now because there's anxiety surrounding it, fear surrounding it. But how do you know that that step is for you, even though you're feeling scared?
Well, I think we have a false conception of fear. People think that there's either people that are afraid and people that are not afraid. And that's not true. There are people are afraid. There are people that let fear stop them, and people who choose to fear less, meaning they feel afraid, but they still do it. So I would try to learn that fear is not a reason why not to. Fear may very well be the reason why to. You know what I mean? So it's not because I'm afraid that I don't do it. It's like, oh, I'm afraid, but it feels right. I know it's right. It's like that inner gut knowing that's right. Then I cannot use fear as an excuse. And I learned a long time ago that fear cannot be an excuse. So if you stop waiting for the fear to go away, if you stop waiting for the perfect moment doesn't exist. Yeah. There's not such a day that you're going to wake up and not be afraid. It's just taking yourself too seriously. You know, I always tell, like, when I coach women to get on stage or do big things and they have massive imposter syndrome, I tell them this: why you're making it about you? Right? If I make it about me, I'll never go on stage. I start hearing my accent. I start like, oh my God, I can't go, right? I start tripping on my English. I'm like, it's my fourth language. What the hell am I doing? Like, if I make it about me and my desire to look good and be liked, I'll never go. The reason why I go is because it's not about me. It's about the message. Yeah. It's about the expression. It's about the story. You have to trust that the reason that you have a story and a desire to share it, it's a good enough reason to do it. And then stop listening to the fearful thoughts. Just choose to believe. Make fear is a lie your core belief. Fear is a lie.
Yeah.
Fear is a liar.
Yeah. I'm going to write that on my mirror. I always write something.
Fear is a liar.
Yeah, I always have like a quote of like the week or something or the month that I want to focus on, and I think that's going to be how I'm going to end my year. I love that. Yeah. Fear is a liar. Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you. I wish that we had more time. We need to do a part 2 on this podcast because this was so good and so inspiring and just makes me love being a woman even more and makes me feel so amazing to move into these new chapters and new phases of my life and go into the unknown, seeing inspiring people like you and seeing that there's so much more to look forward to than what I'm leaving behind. So
much. Yeah. So much for the next quarter.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited, and I am so grateful that Pronto got us in contact. So whenever me and him would meet, if you guys haven't already, you should definitely go check out that podcast because it was really good with Pronto Potter. But he would always talk about this like woman, Rakel, like she's so awesome. She's coming. I'm going to be meeting her. And for like 2 years, we would like every time we would meet, somehow that message would come up, and I was like, man, I want to meet this girl, like, because there's not many people that Pronto talks about like that I'm like, Pronto himself is so inspiring, so if he finds somebody else even more inspiring than him, I'm like, I need to meet this
boy.
Yeah, I was like,
he's my third child. He hates that.
I was like, I need to meet this
He absolutely hates that I say that, but I literally like, I love him so much. He's like, that when you meet people that are like your soul brother, your soul child or something, like I like really, I'm so proud of the man he is. Yeah. His growth like moves me. Yeah. And he really listens, and we have this deep conversation, and he's an old soul, and we have such a great connection. And so whenever I come to New York, he cancels everything, and it's just so sweet. So he wants to take me to all these places, and he goes around with this camera filming me in funny moments, and I just like, oh gosh, stop. But
stop.
Yeah, like he's everywhere with the camera, like wherever you go, it feels like a paparazzi.
Yeah. Oh no. But yeah, so all those for 2 years, I was like, man, like I wonder if I'm ever gonna meet her, like how am I gonna get in contact with her? And then it's crazy. It just shows you that the universe aligns you with who you're supposed to be. And I was just thinking like, oh, maybe I'll meet you at dinner one day. Like never did I think the first time I would be meeting you is doing such a beautiful podcast to inspire and ignite something within me and within other women. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was so good. Rakel Chafir, everyone. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode because I know I did.
Thanks, guys.